know when you travel and you bring all your jewelry and you're just greeted with a giant knot of endless ends?
Yeah.
This is what this story feels like.
Welcome to Red Wine Reads, a community of book lovers talking about our favorite and not so favorite books while pouring a glass or two of wine. I'm your host, Jenna Weston, and with me today in person is Rebecca Sauce-McGatt. Now, before we start, I should warn you that we do spoil the endings of the books we review, so if you don't like that, then please go finish the book and come right back to this episode. So here's what you can expect from every single one of our episodes. We start with a super short summary and some quick facts to get you oriented with the book that we will be reading and reviewing for today's episode. Then we will answer the single question, would you recommend this book, with a simple yes or no with a few supporting facts. And then we will spend the majority of the episode arguing why or why not we would recommend this book. Then we will end the show with final ratings out of 5 and pairings, where we will pick drinks, TV shows, movies, and other books that might pair well with today's read. Each episode also hosts its own drinking game, so whatever your drink of choice, wine, cocktails, mocktails, coffee, water, we hope that you'll sip along with us. So today we are diving into the book Rouge by Mona Awad, and we thought we would do it in style with having Rebecca and I do an in-person episode. Now, I do want to preface that we had a full setup with mics and everything, and of course when you're recording in person, something has to go wrong, so of course the mics were not hooked up correctly, and it led to audio that is not the professional quality that we're used to putting out, so I do apologize for that, but the conversation was just so good that we had to produce this episode with or without great sounding audio. It's not bad, it's just not up to my perfectionist standards. So we hope that you will enjoy this conversation around Rouge. We had very similar thoughts on the book and wanted it to be so good. We wanted to like it so much, but there was so much standing in our way to actually recommending this book. So find out whether we did or did not recommend this book and why, because it was a tricky one. So without further ado, let's pull some corks and get reading. Alrighty, let's do this thing. Rebecca, welcome. We're recording here. In my house.
It's so cute.
So it'll be a fun little episode. I know. Alright, well, let's get started. So today we read Rouge by Mona Awad, which is why we're drinking our, of course, Rouge-ish drinks. Cheers. I realized we both didn't put drinks.
Oh yes, I
forgot.
didn't know what to do because I don't think there was a single reoccurring thing that happened in this book.
That's
ever.
True.
So
Maybe Tom Cruise every time we mention Tom Cruise.
I'm gonna get really drunk.
Okay, that's fine.
Mermaid. Okay, anytime we say Mermaid.
The Mermaid Man. Okay. Tom Cruise and the Mermaid Man. So we'll be done with our drinks in about, I don't know, 20 seconds. Alright, sounds good. Alright, let's get into it. So, 60-second summary.
So, the main character, Belle, and her mother, whose name escapes me the moment I start to think about it, have grown up together. Belle's mother is stunning, beautiful, that's like all she is. Belle adores her mother, and she comes to find that her mother has passed by the tragic death of throwing herself or pushed off a cliff. I don't know, she just fell off a cliff. So she travels all the way back to sunny California to take care of her mother's things, and she finds out that her mother was a part of this cult. Is the cult called Rouge?
Yes.
This mysterious beauty cult. Belle herself is into beauty, but this cult is on a whole nother level. She gets lost in this cult. She discovers the background of her mother's beauty and all the tragedy that ensues, and comes to find that she is beautiful just the way she is.
Love it. Okay, no, I think that was perfect. It makes it sound a little bit lighter than it is. Which
Oh,
I like.
yeah.
Because trust me, we will get into spoilers. We will get into what happens at the end of this freaking book. Okay, some quick facts. So this book was published in 2023. It has a 3.6 out of 5 on Goodreads and a 3.76 out of 5 on the Story Graph. It was a Goodreads, speaking of Goodreads, Choice Award nominee for Best Horror in 2023. Interesting. A little bit about Mona Awad before we get into it. So she's from
Canada. The first bullet is from Canada.
Well, she is. She is known for her like darkly comic fiction books. A little bit on the same level as like Otessa Moshfegh. Her father is an Egyptian Muslim and her mother is French Canadian, which kind of plays into the French mother of this book a little bit. She does have a PhD, so super smart gal. And her debut novel, which was 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl, was published in 2016. It won Amazon's Best First Novel Award and the Colorado Book Award, and was shortlisted for the Giller Prize and the Arab American Book Award. And so Bunny, you may know her from her book Bunny, was the second book, and it was super successful. It's like super good. And we may or may not be reading it later on in this podcast, but with a different cast.
Not me.
But it was nominated as Best Book of 2019 by Time, Vogue, Electric Literature, and the New York Public Library. Alrighty, well let's dive right in. Would you recommend this book, Rebecca? Yes? No? Maybe so.
I said I would not. I have read Bunny, and I fell in love with that book. I read it shortly after Bona, which is an Otessa book, because that was really what solidified my love for, like, psychological horror, which I don't consider any of these books horror. Anyway. So I loved Bunny, so I was really excited to read this, but I would not recommend it. I think it's too cluttered of a story to confidently recommend it, like, blindly. Like, if someone was like, I like this kind of story, and it perfectly matched up to what this book does, sure, I'll recommend it, but if they're like, oh, I really kind of like psychological thrillers, horrors, I wouldn't even touch this one.
Yep. I also said no.
Yeah.
I just think it's just too long. Like the middle, like it is a pretty thick book-ish, but like it's just too long. Like in the middle, it gets way too confusing. There's a lot of plot points that happen that seem to be kind of like out of nowhere. You kind of get this feeling of Inception where you're like in a story within a story within a story kind of vibe, which is fine if done well.
I think it wasn't done well.
Yeah, I think it's tough because I really like the beginning and I really like the end.
It's also tough because you always have to think of, like, is this the point of the book, is to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, was this, like, the whole point to be, like, to feel this way after reading it? But it's like, I don't like that feeling, so even if that was the point, I don't like it.
But I almost don't feel like it was.
Like, there's no way. There's no way.
No.
Like, after reading Bunny, I know that she can do it correctly. So,
yeah.
After reading this, I'm like, oh, okay. Did you mean to do this? Or, oh, you did? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's fine.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
I feel like the plot itself, like, leads to another point, and so, like, I don't think, like, the confusing nature of it, like, adds to the point that it's trying to make.
I don't know what point she was trying to make. I feel there is so many loose ends. Like, this is just one entire frayed knot. Like, it's just a ball of knot. You know, when you travel and you bring all your jewelry and you're just greeted with a giant knot of endless ends? This is what the story feels like.
Yeah. That's exactly what it feels like.
Like, I was explaining this earlier. I have so many questions, and I'm desperately hoping that you read the book in a way that answers all of my questions. Because I have so many questions. I didn't hate this book by any means. I've read worse books that I actually hated. I didn't hate this book at all.
No.
Like, I actually enjoyed reading it. It was
What's
my main, yeah. I love her world building. I love her world building. I love her character building. The way she describes people, places, and things is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
So being she really immerses you in the world that she creates. I just wasn't thrilled with what she did with these people, places, and things. But you could really visualize yourself in this cult, in this world, in Hollywood. Well, they weren't in Hollywood, but they were in sunny California. Mm-hmm. They were in French Canada. And she just does it so well.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree, because, I mean, she's talking about La Jolla, California, like, in San Diego. And I went to college there, so, like, I know exactly.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't put two and two together.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So, like, I know that area so well. Wow. So she described it to the T. Like, I know exactly what she was talking about. Yeah.
That's really fun.
And it was really fun, because, like, I know what kind of shop she's, like, working at, and I know what it looks like.
Yeah.
It's like, every time, okay. And so I think, yes, her description of everything is, like, phenomenal. It was so good. And, like, her writing style is very interesting, and it's very descriptive in a good way. And, like, I don't know, like, setting up the story. Again, like, the beginning was so good.
Yes.
And I really liked, I was like, ooh, it's interesting. It's kind of creepy, because she's got this weird obsession with her skin. And, like, is that going to lead to something? And then you have that woman in red show up, and you're like, ooh, that's creepy. And then she goes to the house for the first time. And then she has her flashback, and then that's when it lost me. To, like, or flashback / Tom Cruise saying. That was a mistake. But yes, I think the other thing that I really thought was interesting was, like, going on the skincare thing. I think the commentary that she has provided on, like, the beauty industry and, like, kind of harping on, like, the glow or the brightening, and then, like, with the words kind of slipping, she's like, it's the whitening of the skin. And, like, needing every cream, acid, like, everything out there, I think is super interesting, because, like, especially now, and I think it is written kind of on the back of, like, the Sephora kids, and, like, having these 12-year-olds want, like, retinoid cream, and you're like, what?
They're like, oh, it's preventative. You're like, for what? Yeah. Like, call me in, like, 20 years.
I was like, at 12 years old, I was, you know, knee deep in the pool, in the mud, and, like, would just come home and just sleep.
Floam just came out. God. Like, I was freaking knuckles deep in Floam, man. Like, what do you mean you're mixing drunk elephant with tanning drops? Girl, get out of here. Get out of my face.
Yeah. Magic sand had just come out. It's like magnetic sand. Oh!
I love
sand. But I do think, like, that was interesting.
Yes, coming from someone who went through a huge skincare, like, obsession back in, I would say, like, on the tail end of the pandemic, where it was, like, 2022, 2023. I was, like, super into skincare. I was like, I need to go to facials. Like, I was spending a lot of money on facials. Like, I was spending a lot of money on skincare. Because I was on Skincare Talk. Like, I was on, like, you need this, you need this, you need this. And my skin was the worst it's ever been. And then I just went back to using, like, 2 products, and it's fine. It's perfectly fine. And it's, like, I related to that a lot. And I kind of liked how, when she was explaining, like, what she was doing, like, at first I was like, God, okay, I get it, move on. But then she did it again, and I was like, I got it. Like, you hate reading it, but it's like, that's the whole point. So that point, I got.
Yeah.
I did like how, like, the names were super long, and it took forever to read, and it felt monotonous, and it felt like, okay, let's freaking get the show on the road, but it's like, I liked how that was the point. And once it, like, hammered home, she didn't do it again. And I was like, God bless.
Yeah. And yes, I agree. Because, like, I think, like, there have been books when that would just keep going. And you're like,
you would just skim right over it. You wouldn't even care.
But it was, I don't know, it was just, like, fascinating.
You're like, dang, that was me.
Yeah.
Girl, okay, that was me. Okay.
And even, like, talking about, like, just burning the face off. And then starting again. Yeah. Like, it's just crazy. But, yeah, I think I like that. And then, so again, in, like, the middle part, it was a little long for me, but one part I did really like was, like, when she'd kind of wake up from her treatment, and then she'd go about her normal life. Or so she thought. And, like, you know, the first time she's waking up, she's seeing herself in the mirror, and the girl in the mirror just kind of disappears and, like, goes and does her own thing. And then, like, with the second treatment, she sees her mom in the mirror, which is technically her, but has turned herself into her mother with these, like, crazy treatments. And, like, starts talking, like, we. Yeah. So creepy. Love it. And her stealing the mannequins and being like, my sisters.
I love the sisters. That one gave me a giggle. I was like, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's, like, kooky funny.
Well, and
I really like that.
I think, like, Mona does such a good job with that because that, like, hits home how her look is. Because, like, it, like, you can kind of, like, think about what it means to, like, whiten, brighten your skin, but, like, to have it be, like, it's like a mannequin, you're like, oh, that's creepy.
Like, okay, I get it.
Like, that's why it's creepy. Like, that's why people are like, what the?
Especially coming from a Middle Eastern American woman who is not bright white.
Yeah.
Making that stark change. I have Middle Eastern friends, and if I woke up one day and walked to them and they were, like, pasty white, I'd be like, it would take my breath away. It really would. And not a good way.
Yeah.
And like ew, what on earth? What the fuck?
Yeah. But it's like, that's, I mean, I think that's, like, you know, the commentary of, like, this is, like, beauty standards is to be this, like,
but
glowing.
Everything she said, even though it was, like, everything she said was true. It's crazy. Because it's, like, beauty standards are leaning towards clear, white skin. Period.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And this really just, like, I don't even think it, like, bloated it. Like, I don't even think it, like, blew it out of proportion in any way. I think it very much clearly, perfectly stated how it is. And I really did appreciate that. And I wrote in my I like how we never actually knew if Belle was conventionally pretty or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I did like how she never described what Belle, like, actually looked like. And, like, you were only getting it through her eyes, which you were like, oh, she's not really pretty. That's a shame. Like, I get it why she's doing all the skincare.
Yeah.
Like, oh, because I do that because I'm not pretty. So I do the same thing. I totally get it. But then people, like, her mother's like, you're beautiful.
Yeah.
And her friend is like, oh, you're beautiful. And so you're like, is she actually pretty? Like, what is going on here? So I loved how you actually, like, never knew. And even in the end, she's like, oh, you just look like you. Which is, like, cheesy, but at the same time, it's like,
yeah.
I guess it didn't matter.
Yeah.
I loved that point. I thought that was really good.
Yeah. It's fascinating. It reminds me of, like, my senior year, I did a, almost like a capstone project. And where I wanted to look at body image through the eyes of, like, different people. So I talked with a model, a drag queen, and, like, a bodybuilder kind of gym rat kind of gal. And each one of them had, like, the same issues. And
Really?
So, yeah.
The
so,
same.
well, not like the same, but, like,
yeah.
They each had body image issues in one way or another.
Yeah.
And were comparing themselves to others.
Yeah, of course.
And you're like, huh. So even, like,
well,
the gal
it's
that...
like, it's not me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like the gal at the gym is, like, always looking at other girls and being like, I can be stronger, or I should be leaner, or I should be this. And then you have the model that's like, I should be this way, I should be that way, I should be, like, you know, I should have a thinner face, I should do this. Yes. And so it's like, it's very fascinating to see that, and like, this book, I think, plays on that, because you're like, you have no idea what she looks like.
You have no idea. Like, at first, from the view of Belle, honestly, I was fully convinced that she actually just, like, wasn't conventionally attractive. Like, in my mind, I pictured her as someone who's, like, not conventionally attractive.
Yeah.
And because no one actually really considers herself as, like, a pretty person. Like, nobody does. So, I was like, oh, I understand why she's doing all this skincare stuff, because that's what I do. Like, girl, same. But then you're like, wait, is she actually pretty? And then you feel almost like, kind of like, wait a second. You got me. You got me.
Yeah.
So you feel kind of like silly.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you're like, I am silly. It doesn't matter if she's pretty or not.
Yeah. No, I think it's fascinating, and even like playing on the like whitening, brightening of it. But like the wordplay.
Oh, yes.
It was so good. Because like as they're, going through this treatment, they're losing sense of themselves, but they're also losing touch of like words and like how to speak, and like it's becoming very confusing.
I killed him on the mouth.
Yes.
I know it's fine.
But it's just like the little tiny things. It's like severed instead of served. Like they're severing this. And you have like, she's like, the dress looked like organs, and it was like, no, I mean roses. Like, it's looking like flowers, but it's like, no, they look like organs. Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, I love that.
I thought it was really funny. I really did.
Yeah.
I really liked that.
Because it was very intentional. It wasn't like overdone. It was just like a few words.
I liked how it started off as a few words in the beginning. And then by the end, she wasn't even, like, italicizing them.
Yeah.
And she wasn't even, like, correcting herself. Like, it was part of their sentence.
Yeah.
Like, I severed them. Like, no italices, no corrections. It was just that sentence by the end of the book. And you were like, slay. Like, that was really good.
That was really good. Well, let's touch on the end before we get on to What Fell Flat. Because the end is one of the things that I still really liked, which it might lead into What Fell Flat for you.
Yeah.
Because, like, I think the build-up was interesting, and to have it, I think the connection between the jellyfish was like a little weird. Not sure if I love that, but I do love the fact of like, you bring your jellyfish out and they just demolish it, and therefore demolishing you. And I was like, oh, that's fucked. But like in the best of ways. Like, that's crazy. And like nobody knows what's going on because they're obsessed with themselves and looking at themselves in the mirror. And you have this girl on the stage that is dying. And that is crazy. Like, I thought that was very cool. Like, very original-ish, like, very weird and very, like, I was intrigued.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. But I do think I lost it with, like, she, like, followed the jellyfish out into the sea. But I also got it.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, just reiterating what I said in the beginning, just like, you couldn't help but get lost in what was going on because the way she writes it so well. But just like, I think from the moment that she got her, like, she started getting her flashbacks before her third treatment, I was like,
yeah.
I was kind of just like, over what was happening. But again, her writing still keeps you intrigued enough to keep reading. But I was just like, by the time it got to eating the jellyfish, by the time it got to you're watching someone die, by the time it got to like the climax of it all, I was like, at that point I had so many questions that were unanswered that I was just like, this doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that was really disappointing because I love good build-up, and it was really good.
It was really good. I do think it was interesting to have, like, his name Todd dead.
No, I think it was Todd. I can probably flip to any page because
It was Hud Hudson. We're both wrong.
No, the Mermaid Man, the shirtless guy. His name was Todd.
Oh!
The useless one that had no reason to be in the book.
Yes. Yeah. Just to be a pretty face. No, I was thinking of Hud Hudson. I think it was very
Oh yeah, Hudson, I have my issues with Hudson, but yeah, he was good. I thought he was fine.
I think we needed him in the sense of, like, we needed a guy who kind of knew the plot, like...
Did he know what was going on? Did he? Oh, it
Well,
sounds like he had no idea what the fuck was going on. What's the point of having a beauty historian or a beauty detective if he doesn't know what's going on? Anyway, that's in my thoughts. We'll get to that in a second.
I wasn't gonna say I really like the character of Hudson. I just really like the ending of him just, like, dancing with a mannequin on the beach.
I thought that was cute.
I thought it was kind of a funny, like, oh, he fucking lost it too.
Yeah.
Tough, Hud.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like, oh god, that's your brother.
Yeah.
Well, he did.
Yikes. Well,
Tough.
let's get into what fell flat.
Ugh.
I can just start with this quote because I feel like I read a New York Times book review and I was like, this encapsulates it perfectly of like how I felt when I finished this book. And it's by Megan O'Grady, and she says, its style is as maximalist as Belle's skincare routine, intentionally overheated with fairy tale illusions and repetitive tropes, an approach that clogs the narrative pores and dulls its radiance. The book felt at least 50 pages too long.
At least.
100?
Yeah, you can just cut all of Tad's story and there's your 50 pages.
Cut Tad, cut the second Tom Cruise.
The second Tom Cruise? There's only one.
Well, like the second Tom Cruise flashback.
Oh, yeah. Awful. Cringe.
Mm-hmm. Or just cut the first one and
Cut
then
her friend, freaking Stacy. We're done. I have so many things.
There's a lot of things that could
There's
be
so
cut
many things.
out of there.
I could never be a writer, and this review solidifies it because the way its style is as maximalist as Belle's skincare routine is so bars.
So
like,
poignant.
it's so good. I could never even oh god, it clogs the narrative pores and dulls its radiance. I could bite out of this paragraph like an apple. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
But it describes this book so... It's too much. It does too much with finishing nothing.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah. I'm gonna say my questions. I have so many questions. And then you can explain them to me if I've missed anything. So, first off, I guess my biggest qualm is, was there magic in this book? Was it trying to imply that there was some sort of magic system in place? With the magic mirror, the magic shoes, like the Dorothy shoes, she made like the potion that she poisoned her mother with. Was I missing something, or was there some sort of magic system in place?
So she didn't make a potion to poison her mom. Her mom was allergic to roses, so she just put a bunch of rose petals in and she had an allergic reaction.
Oh.
But the rest of it is magic.
Okay.
I think there's like a magical element, and actually this gets into my pairings, but I think there's like almost like a witchy kind of magic.
That's fine. But if you want to go back to like my feelings on magic systems, you can listen to our Babel episode because
Yes.
I really dive in. But I am such a stickler for explaining a magic system if there's magic, because I was so lost. Magic shoes, like magic sex shoes, like walk through mirrors, like I wasn't thrilled that all of a sudden they were just like dropping magic on us.
Yeah.
No matter if it was like witchy, like, or not, like there was magic involved. You gotta let me know.
Yeah. I think.
Oh, the bracelet? Was it like the bracelet was supposed to be like protecting her, right? Like it had like
Yes.
like the eye on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was like from her father.
It was from her father,
Yeah.
who was from Egypt, which please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Egyptian I don't know if that's correct, so I'm gonna leave that out.
It was confusing. That part confused me because I thought that they were gonna have like some like come to Jesus moment at the end where they were like, and this is why you were wearing the amulet thing on your wrist. And it never.
Because I like assumed that because she had this bracelet on and there's magic in the world, that this bracelet was protecting her from being completely eaten up by this cult. Literally.
Then did she have it on at the very end?
I
Because I
think
think that
so.
it came off at one point.
I think she had it on throughout the entire third treatment. I think that's why.
Okay.
Because he was able to pick her up because her magic shoes weren't working. They weren't letting her walk.
Yeah.
So Seth, Tom Cruise, take a drink, picked her up.
Yeah.
But she still had the bracelet on the whole time. I don't. That's what I'm saying.
The bracelet was that
one
was a miss for me.
The whole magic of everything really threw me for a loop. Okay, so now on to... God. Okay,
just try
Tad.
this.
I'm gonna talk about Tad. I think...
Whereas in our notes, it is Todd.
I changed it to Tad. Tad, completely 110% useless of a character.
Yes.
I was reading this book on the train, and I was sitting next to my boyfriend, and he revealed to me that he was, like, reading some pages along with me, because he was bored, and he was like, it just seemed like woman porn. Like, there's this shirtless man cleaning her windows. He was like, what is that? And I was like, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that it felt like. Like,
Yeah.
So he was her mom's boyfriend? Okay, and? Like, what else? But there was nothing. Every time he came up on my page, I was like, cringe.
I know, like, the only thing I can think that, like, his character was, like, the character to be like, you're going through the same thing your mom is, so, like, careful.
But that's what her friend was for. That's what,
Exactly.
No, the woman. Her mom's friend.
Stella? No. Sylvia.
That's what Sylvia was for. Sylvia was to have a relation to her mom.
Mm-hmm. I think Tad is just a hot piece. We want to...
Well, get out of here, Tad. get. Like, I thought he was completely useless.
I wonder if he is the male standard of beauty, and it's like, if he were to notice her beauty, then it would, like, validate what she's doing.
But she wasn't looking...
I know.
Like, okay,
a little bit after the second treatment, she was like, well, why don't you want to kiss? Like, he wants to kiss. And then...
But I felt like that was more like... Because she does the same thing with Hudson, where she sleeps with him.
Yeah.
So why is Tad here? That's what I'm saying. Why is Tad here? Okay, back to Tom Cruise. Drink now.
Drink now.
Okay, so we've established that there's magic in the world. He climbs through a mirror. Yikes.
Yeah.
My main question is, he went on this huge, like, monologue about how her mom stole her beauty. He seems to get really, like, riled up with that. And then he's like, he goes into this big monologue about how, it happens all the time. It's the worst, but you know what we have to do, of course, when they steal it, take it back. And then, basically, he reveals then, he's like, my name's not Tom, it's Seth. So, here's the thing. Was he implying that Tom Cruise stole Seth's beauty, and that's how he became this ghoulish monster?
I genuinely have no idea.
Okay.
I did not understand anything to do with the Tom Cruise storyline.
Okay. Because that was like I was like, oh, is he the big bad because Tom Cruise stole his beauty, and now he's like...
See, because I read it more as like... I didn't even catch that at all, to be totally honest. I read it more as like, he was like an apparition of what...
she wanted to see.
Yes. And like, she kind of projected that into this character of Seth, and Seth was like, no, it's just Seth. I'm not Tom Cruise. And I was like, what the fuck?
I have... Tom Cruise? Really?
I mean, this is what, in the early aughts?
I guess so, but it was written in 2023. You couldn't have chosen anyone else.
But I feel like Tom Cruise is the perfect amount of, like, yeah, like, in his heyday, sexy, but, like, kind of creepy.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
And culty, because he's in Scientology. He's, like, the big figure of Scientology.
I know. Okay, so that was kind of like my... Okay, so that was like my thing about the whole, like, mirror, like, the whole mirror thing kind of just goes back to my whole, like, qualm with, like, you can't just spray magic on us.
Yeah.
You just can't do that. I think also with the end of the story, with the introduction of Hudson,
Yeah.
and we know who he is. He's this, what Belle proclaimed as a beauty detective.
Yeah.
Who has a magic mirror. Is every mirror magic, or it just certain?
I think
Hudson has a magic mirror too in his hotel room.
Yeah, I don't know. At a certain point, I just got to the point, like,
You know
I was
what?
like, whatever.
Sure. Okay, so Hudson is a proclaimed beauty detective because his brother was Belle.
Yep.
Long ago, his twin brother. He is supposed to be our source of information about this cult.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the whole story, you're expecting him to sit her down and be like,
Yeah.
this is what the cult is. Like, let me explain a little bit. We didn't get that at all. And I was so frustrated because every time she, like, was with Hudson and he, like, starts his monologuing and doesn't tell us anything about this cult that he's supposed to be the beauty detective on.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean you've been following this cult around for years? It sounds like you don't know shit. So, why are you here?
Nobody knows. I know, I was very frustrated with that. I was like, when are we gonna get a background of this woman and
When are we
these
gonna know
twins?
what is going on here?
And, like, why there was a threesome hinted? Like, then she, like, talks about a threesome, but I never really got much insight.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if the twins aren't the twins you slept with, why did you tell us, and why are they here?
I don't know. And then I'm like, well, is Seth...
Is he, like, the king cult guy?
I don't know. Like, we didn't get any of
I
that.
do not know, and it drove me bonkers,
And then,
dude.
like, the mansion just falls into the sea. Or drowns. It floods. It drowns. Everyone drowned.
Apparently everybody drowned, which, that's impossible. If the house washed down into the ocean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I was really disappointed about how we got no information, but if that was like the whole point, because we were seeing it out of Belle's viewpoint, who had no idea what the fuck was going on. She just went with it. She didn't know the history.
Yeah.
She didn't know what was going on. She was just being swept away. Literally and figuratively. Like, I get it, but as a reader, it's very disappointing.
Yeah. Well, then I didn't understand how her mom was able to come back as a jellyfish. Or, like, her mom's jellyfish was able to stay there and, like, help her. But, like, other people's jellyfishes can't help them?
Because, from what I understand with the jellyfish, we'll get into the jellyfish.
The jellyfish.
So, the people who go through the treatments get their jellyfish.
Okay.
And they can be selected whenever they have these dinners to catch their jellyfish.
Yep.
And eat them. I'm assuming that once they do that, they catch their jellyfish and their jellyfish is eaten, they become one of the black masked people.
Okay.
So, but not everyone is chosen. So those jellyfish are just ruminating in the thing.
There.
That's their source of, like, beauty. But because...
And only the person can catch their own
Only the person
jellyfish.
can catch their own jellyfish. But because Belle's mom died outside of the cult,
Yeah.
no one can catch her jellyfish. So that's why her mom's jellyfish was there.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No,
I think to reach, what was the phrase? Like, they were on their beauty journey to reach their whatever. Like their most magnificent self. Something like that.
Yes.
I'm assuming that's how they reach their most magnificent self, is by getting their jellyfish eaten. They turn into a black mask person, and they're fully, like, they're dead, so they belong to the cult. Like, their memories are extracted into this jellyfish. The jellyfish is eaten. They're more or less considered dead. Because I don't think, because when they ate Lake's jellyfish, it didn't seem like she died. She was still alive when they dragged her out of the room.
Yeah, but she was, like, tortured.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't think she died, so I'm assuming that that's reaching her most magnificent self, and she comes back as one of, like, the fully culted people who get to sit at the table and be a masked person.
But does she? Because I feel like there would be way more masked people.
Wouldn't it be great to know? Wouldn't it be great?
We won't know.
Wouldn't it be great to know? Mona?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm
Same.
throwing in the towel there.
I liked being there in the treatment room with her. I thought
Yeah.
that was cool. Again, her world building is so good.
Yeah.
Are the masks, like the casts of them being like open-mouthed, like she was describing? I'm assuming that's what that was.
Well, see, like, my thought was that these people, like Blake, like, get eaten and, like, they think they're gonna become the black mask person, but they end up becoming, like, the face in the wall. Because they're like, ah!
Okay. I assume
But
because
I
they
don't
put such heavy emphasis on she was laying on the table, mouth open. She was speaking, but her lips weren't moving.
Oh.
But she had, like, they put, like, a physical, like,
Mask.
clay mask on them. I assume it was that. But, again, wouldn't
We
it be
don't
great
know.
to know? Here we are.
Help, Mona!
So those are pretty much all of my questions. And I'm so glad that we can't answer any of them.
No answers at all. I mean, to end it, I was like, I simply put, I just wasn't excited to pick up the book until about 80 pages. Like, after the first 50 to 100 pages, I was like, no.
Yeah. Because you're like, you know you're going to read it and not get any answers.
Yes.
So you're just like, God, okay, I guess I'll just take in more information.
Yeah.
Like, you're just taking in more just, like, aimless information.
Yeah. I guess I'll read about Seth and Tom Cruise. I don't understand.
And, like, I love how we're completely missing, like, talking about her friend, like, Stacy. And that whole, like, 80 pages.
Yeah.
Because it didn't matter.
No.
It didn't matter.
See, like, this is the thing. Like, when I finished it, I was like, I kind of liked it.
That's what I'm saying. I didn't hate it.
And then you, like, talk about it, and
After
you're
that
like,
rambling. like, overall, I did not hate this book.
no.
But, again, unless you're like, I love a book that leaves me thinking about it, because it just leaves me, like, with so many questions. Like, I just really like those kinds of books. I would be like, girl,
Yeah.
I got the book for you.
Yeah.
But I've never met someone like that, so here I am not recommending this book. Absolutely sure.
Alright, well, let's get our final ratings. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I think, though there was a lot to love about this book, like the world building, the skincare, the, honestly, the end was, like, fascinating, even though you have no answers at all. It all happened toward the end, and it all happened toward the beginning of, like, building it up, and then, like, ending the book, but then middle. Yikes. So, like, the actual experience of reading the book, I just felt so sluggish, and, like, so, like, ugh, I have to pick it up again. So, it was just, like, muddled, confusing, didn't really know where it was going. And then, frankly, again, the Tom Cruise storyline was just, like, too much.
It was a little too...
It was weird, and it was weird to the point, like, it didn't make sense.
I wish that they just went with, like, oh, he was attractive.
Yeah, it was sad.
Like, the fact that they put a face to him, that's what really kind of, like, I didn't hate the aspect of she was, like, she saw something that wasn't there. It was somebody else, but it was actually Seth. But the fact that she put the words Tom Cruise in the book, it really just threw me for a loop.
See, I almost, like, wouldn't mind if it was Tom, like, if she was seeing Tom Cruise as, like, a character, but the fact that he, like, had to say, like, no, I'm Seth. It's like, that's weird. I'm like, who the hell is Seth?
Why can't it just be Seth?
It's either Seth or Tom Cruise.
Why are you making this little girl see Tom Cruise? That's freaking weird, bro.
Yeah, it does take you away.
And how tall are those heels?
Right?
She was supposed to be like, what?
She's tall. I think she was, like, 5'10"? No,
As a
5'8"?
child, when she first met Tom
Oh,
Cruise,
yeah.
she was supposed to be like a child.
Like, why did Tom Cruise's kiss leave a mark on her?
That is what I'm saying. What is up with this magic
Sorry.
system? It drives me crazy. It drives me crazy, dude.
We could have another
Oh.
hour-long conversation about that.
You can't spring a magic system on me. It will drive me crazy.
Anyways, but again, not great, but didn't hate it.
Didn't hate it, but I rated it a 3 out of 5. I was gonna do 2.5, but that seemed a little harsh.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll do it a 3. For the exact same reasons. It was just convoluted. It was too much aimless information just being stuffed down your throat, and you choked. You just felt like you were choking the whole time on information.
Yeah.
With getting no answers or relief.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly how that. Anyways.
I love you, Mona. I actually really do love this author. She's so good.
Yeah. We'll try again next time. Anyways, pairings. We like to end our show with a segment called Pairings, where we will pick drinks, TV shows, other books, and movies that might pair well with today's book. So, drink.
Prosecco and pomegranate juice.
Which
For
is
sure.
what we're
That's what we
drinking
have.
right now.
Prosecco, bubbly, the stars are in the glass.
Stars are in the glass. Yeah. But it won't make you turn into a mannequin. So don't worry about that. Okay. TV show.
I did The Idol. I'm not sure if you've seen it.
I haven't seen it, but I know
I
which one
haven't
you're
seen
talking
it, but
about.
I know way too much about it because I was on the Idol TikTok when it first came out. Basically, it's this pop star who loses her mother and loses her way in pop stardom, finds this guy who basically like promises her that she's gonna be a star if he just follows her. He's basically like the leader of his own music cult, basically. And the whole show is actually really bad. Like, quality-wise, it's really bad. But the story matches up similar. And basically it's just like her finding her way through this music hole. In the end, there's like a twist. And I thought it actually paired really, really well with the story.
Great. Well, I did a Nurse Ratched. Playing off of, like, kind of the creepy, like, obsessive main character who kind of thinks that she's, like, doing good stuff. And then it ends up not being that great. And also, I think this is kind of like a weird connection to bring in, but the way that the show Nurse Ratched is pulled in, and also if you don't know, Nurse Ratched is the main character in One Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest. She is like this crazy, mean nurse, and is a little psycho. But they've made like a whole spin-off of like her origin story. And so it's very good. Highly recommend. But the filming of it is very like dark, but also very like pigmented in like different colors in it. And I feel like that also kind of plays into like the vibe of reading this book, where it's like a lot of like muted colors,
yeah.
but then like boom, you have a red, like bright red everywhere. So just like the experience of watching it was also very similar. Okay, book.
Dude, I gotta say Bunny. It's such a good book. It does what this book was supposed to do correctly. There's no magic, thank God. Like, kind of, but they just make, it's so good. It is a little, to me, Bunny is a little more on the, like, horror side than this book is. I would categorize this book as horror.
Yeah.
On any level. But I would Bunny. And it's just done so much better. It's just clean. It only has, like, the characters are worthwhile. Every single one of them has a reason to be there. You, like... Fuck Dad. It's just, like... I can't remember... You get more answers in Bunny. Like, Bunny is just this done well. It's just so good.
I love it. Well, we will be reading it, so stay tuned.
Not me, I've already read it. It's so good.
My book is kind of an interesting pairing, but I think it plays well into the idea of like whitening, brightening the skin.
Yes, I've heard about this book.
Yes,
It pops up a lot.
Yes, The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. All-time favorite book. Like, it is in my top 10 of favorite books out there. Britt Bennett's other book, The Mothers, is also in there. So, like, Britt Bennett, where are you at? Because I haven't seen any books by her recently. Good.
I tripled on myself.
It's okay. But this book takes place of two twins, and they are biracial, and one grows up and tries to pass, or successfully passes as white, and one is
Really?
Passing as like part of the Black community, and both face their own struggles of trying to navigate this world as not fully in one side or the other, and their paths intersect in very interesting ways, and it's just a fascinating book of like how the world expects you to look and act a certain way, and when you don't do that, how do you fit in? And it's like both sides are expecting a different thing from each of them, and each of them find it very difficult to like play into the roles that they're supposed to play into society. It's just so good. It's so good.
Okay. I've heard good things. It pops up on my, like, you should read a lot.
Yeah, Britt Bennett is just a masterful author. I love her. Anyways, movie.
I chose The Infinity Pool. Have you seen this movie?
No, I haven't.
It is about a couple who goes on vacation and they get caught up with this weird group of people who does this fun little activity of getting together. And it's been a while since I've seen it, but correct me if I'm wrong. Leave a 5-star review. Correct me if I'm wrong. That they basically go through this process of creating a fake version of themselves and killing it. And it's very culty and very wacky and very crazy. And Mia Goth is in it. I love Mia Goth.
Yeah.
And she does a fantastic job, as always. And it's just the whole time, you're like, what the fuck is going on? This is insane. And it's really good. And it really just, like, emphasizes all this book in, like, not knowing what's going on, but so much is happening. It really, like, it's that.
Wow. That actually looks very good.
It's really good. It's actually really, we saw it in theaters, and the whole time I was like my jaw was on the floor in my lap.
Wow, okay. I have to look that up.
It's very interesting. It's a good watch.
Okay. Bubbles. So I have two. One of them, I'm going to start with Bad Hair, because I want to end on my, like, banger. Bad Hair was a movie I watched, and it's kind of like a satirical horror on, like,
yes, I know.
Yeah, the hair industry, especially as it pertains to Black women. And it's like, if these Black women get these weaves that are used with this hair that is, like, tainted from a past, I don't want to give too much away, but and pretty much the hair starts to act really weird and makes them act really weird, and it's like, it's creepy, it's also kind of funny, but it's also makes you think, and it's also another play on, like, the beauty industry and, like, what we can learn from it, and it's very good. I think, like, I didn't think it would stick with me as much as it did, because it was just like a one-off, like, oh, let me just, like, watch this on Hulu, and it was so good. And then the last one, I think, just
so good. This was gonna be mine.
Yes, is Suspiria,
Of course.
the newest version, not the 1970s version, but
The one with Dakota Johnson.
Dakota Johnson,
Yes.
and Tilda Swinton, which is
And Mia Goth. I think she's in this one too.
oh my god, is she?
Continue, I'll look it up.
So Suspiria is about a ballet studio based in Europe somewhere, I believe. Germany,
I don't
yes.
have internet, so never mind. Just kidding.
And so pretty much Dakota Johnson gets invited to this very, like, elite ballet studio, and she enters there, starts to see things are a little weird, and then ends up dancing this solo while this girl is in this basement getting absolutely destroyed. which is kind of like how I imagined the jellyfish scene to go, was like, every move is causing pain to this girl. And at the very end, spoiler alert, I'll let you exit if you want to see Suspiria, but it's also like very old screenplay, so you probably should know how it ends. Okay. You find out that this ballet studio is run by a cult of witches. Dakota Johnson finds that out. You know, chaos, craziness at the very end, and this cult is like pretty much feeding on these ballet students to keep themselves young and beautiful. Oh, it's so good though. That's one of those movies though that I watched, and we saw it in New York when it first came out, and my friend Cassie and I got gelato afterwards, and literally talked about that movie for 2 hours. It's one of those that
Yes.
couldn't stop talking about, which I feel like is kind of the same thing with this book. Like, I can't stop talking about it. I love horror movies, but I don't love watching them. Like, I love the idea of them, and I love reading about them. I like reading them. But I will watch horror movies whether I always watch them on planes or when I'm like doing laundry in the afternoon one Saturday. Like, I watched it at like 2 p.m. on Saturday.
Oh, I don't touch scary movies. I don't like scary movies.
Scary movies are fun on the plane because it's such a big screen. Can't get you.
I have too wild of an imagination. I think that's why I like to read horror, because I get to enjoy the story but my brain keeps me safe. It's just real good to me. But when I'm seeing it, my brain, it's there. It's what it shows me.
I love it. So next up, we have No Longer Human.
Yes.
Cool. By Osamu Dasi. Yeah. Great. So here's the short little blurb on Amazon. The poignant and fascinating story of a young man who is caught between the breakup of traditions of a northern Japanese aristocratic family and the impact of Western ideas. Portraying himself as a failure, the protagonist of Osamu Dasi's No Longer Human narrates a seemingly normal life, even though while he feels himself incapable of understanding human beings. Oba Yozu's attempts to reconcile himself to the world around him begin in early childhood, continue through high school, where he becomes a clown to mask his alienation, and eventually lead to a failed suicide attempt as an adult. Without sentimentality, he records the casual cruelties of life and its fleeting moments of human connection and tenderness. Should be a fun day.
Rouge is, we pick in like quarters, and we pick like 4 books at a time, and Rouge is like the end of my pick, and then we're starting like the new quarter. So this is like the first one, so I kind of wanted to get, like, I've always wanted to read this one, it always pops up for me, so I wanted to get it kind of like out of the way. Not out of the way, but I wanted to do the heavy one first because we have like 3 quote unquote less heavy books, but
I'm fascinated. I think clowns are fascinating. They scare me, but they like also intrigue me.
I just heard that the writing style of this book is very unique. So yeah. I'm eager. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if I DNF'd it.
Okay. Well,
Don't
stay
say
tuned.
that.
We could DNF this book. It is quite possible. It was written in 1973 too, so.
70s.
We all know how my last 1970s book ended up, so. Stay tuned.
Uh-oh.
Well,
This was fun.
so fun. We may be back in person next month, who knows? Stay tuned. I ran out of drinks.
Cheers.
So cheers. Too much talker.
Well, that's the show. Thanks so much for listening. If you liked it, please go give it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this episode right now. Leave us a review to tell us what you loved and what books you want us to review next. If you want more book-related content, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at RW Reads Podcast. That's at RWREADSPODCAST at RW Reads Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. Until next week, keep your books open and your drink glasses full. Thanks all. Red Wine Reads is a Just Better Media production. Each episode is produced by Jenna Weston and edited by Rayanne Ashtar.